So good to see everyone this morning. This morning, I want to hopefully make the case for how suffering can provide meaning in our lives. And this may sound, because we spend so much time resisting it, avoiding it, running away from it, that it may sound odd that we would seek meaning in it. But that's going to be the hopefully the point of today. And I don't have to tell you that life from the beginning is accompanied by dukkha, often translated as suffering, dissatisfaction, irritation, annoyance, on and on. And this truth that the Buddha so clearly stated is not a condemnation of life. It's an invitation, though, to transform the way we relate to life's challenges. A central Buddhist teaching is suffering, when embraced with awareness, when we engage with it constructively, is a profound teacher that can lead to growth, meaning, and wisdom. And this really echoes the Buddhist teaching that suffering is not something to be avoided at all costs. It's not something to run away from, but it's to be understood. It's to be transcended. It's even to be a path to freedom. You may have heard this cliche: suffering is pain multiplied by resistance. And this closely aligns with the Buddhist teaching that clinging and aversion, the two fundamental responses to life's discomforts, are the root causes of suffering. We cling to that which we want to hold on to because it feels right, but it goes away, or we push away from things which are uncomfortable. Both of those are fundamental to suffering. And yes, pain is unavoidable. Pain of aging, loss, sickness, whatever. It's part of the human experience. There's no way to avoid it. But resistance, when we deny it, when we fight against it, it creates this mental struggle that just magnifies our suffering. As Buddha talked about this from so many different angles. It's like trying to hold back the rushing river. We've used that metaphor before, instead of learning to flow with it, to just go with it. Another metaphor that I like when we talk about suffering is the fire metaphor. When we resist it, when we try to push it away or act as though it weren't there, we just fan the flames. We allow the fire to get hotter and more destructive. But when we approach it calmly with understanding, we learn to use its heat to warm us, to cook our food, to forge our tools, and so forth. It's the fire's not the issue, it's how we approach it. Likewise, suffering is not the issue, it's how we approach it. Finding meaning in life and in this is not always easy, it's not always pleasant, uh, but it is critical, because nobody ever said, I really figured out what I was made of during that relaxed week at the beach. People speak of the times they suffered a crisis, lost a loved one, faced a failure, experienced profound fear, as the time when they really grew, when these moments of suffering, when fully accepted, become opportunities for self-growth, for self-discovery. You know, Another of the Buddha's metaphors was comparing life's challenges to the process of polishing a rough stone. A jewel only becomes radiant when it is ground and shaped by friction. And he taught that similarly, human beings develop resilience, compassion, and wisdom through our struggles, not by avoiding our struggles. Because it is through these moments of pain and challenge that we're forced to confront our attachments, forced to confront our illusions, forced to embrace our true nature. That today's a metaphor day, but that metaphor of the lotus flower, this classic Buddhist teaching, it blooms in muddy water. If you've ever seen a lotus garden, thriving not in a pristine, pure pond, but in muck and mire. But without the mud and muck and mire, there would be no flower. This was one of Thich Nhat Hanh's most relevant teachings, when he said, "No mud, no lotus." In the same way, our suffering, the mud of our lives, nourishes our growth, allows us to blossom into full potential. And as long as we're running away from suffering, as long as we're avoiding suffering, we remain stuck. We don't move. We don't grow. Now, all that said, here's the challenge. We live in a culture that emphasizes the elimination of pain and suffering at all costs. Get rid of it. Run away from it. Buy your way out of it. Run your way out of it. Drink your way out of it. Do whatever out of it. This overwhelming emphasis on comfort, on convenience and pleasure. And that's really predominant in the more affluent West because we have so many ways to seek comfort, to seek convenience, to seek pleasure. From, this numbing escape of distractions. We're encouraged to avoid suffering at, in whatever means available rather than face it head on. But we pay a price for that. We lose touch with the deeper meanings, the deeper teachings of life. Buddhism teaches that avoidance of pain is a manifestation of what he called the three poisons: greed or clinging, hatred or aversion, ignorance or delusion. Greed, hatred, and delusion. When we refuse to look at suffering, we remain trapped in this endless cycle of craving and dissatisfaction, what he calls samsara. The Buddha's path that he taught invites us to turn toward suffering with courage, with curiosity, with an understanding that it's the only way to transcend it. And we discover that within that facing our suffering are the seeds of awakening. Think about carrying a heavy backpack. At first, we try to discard it, pretend it isn't there, but it weighs us down. We can't get rid of it. But if we stop and open it, we find that it contains tools, maps, supplies, all the things we need to navigate our journey. Suffering is like that backpack. It feels burdensome. It is burdensome. But when we investigate it, we discover resources for growth and insight. We discover strengths that we didn't even know we had. We discover strategies that we didn't even know we had because we're facing it. We're put into the fire. And so let's just review for a minute some of the tools that the Buddha gave us for engaging with suffering, which we talk about here all the time. Of course, mindfulness, being fully present with our pain, with our suffering, without judgment, without the second arrow, without avoidance, helps us see it clearly. When we bring mindful awareness to suffering, we begin to understand its causes and we see its impermanence, which is critical to riding those waves. Mindful awareness is like a lantern illuminating a dark room. We see what's actually there than being afraid of the monster under the bed. We turn on the light. And then, of course, we have compassion, turning towards suffering with compassion, both our own suffering and that of others, softens our resistance, opens our heart, helps us hold it more gently. Instead of seeing pain and suffering as the enemy, we hold it lightly and gently like we were cradling a young child or that puppy that we just saw. The Eightfold Path, by following the path of wisdom, ethical conduct, mental discipline, we cultivate the skills needed to navigate these challenges, both with equanimity and with purpose. We do this with intention. Excuse me. Viewing suffering as a teacher, rather than asking, why is the universe doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? Woe is me. We ask, what is this teaching me? What can I learn from this current challenge? Each painful experience can reveal something about our attachments, about our values, and about our capacity for growth. Suffering connects us to the meaning of life. It is in our darkest moments that we discover our inner strength, our capacity for love, our deepest truths, not while we're sitting quietly and peacefully on the beach, as I said, our darkest moments. In Buddhism, this is not a punishment, it's not a flaw, it's not a weakness, it's not a problem with how we're coping in the world. It's the very fabric of our awakening. So I'll leave you with one final metaphor today, and again, forgive all the metaphors today, but I was on a metaphor kick when I wrote the talk. Imagine a piece of coal buried deep within the earth, under centuries of immense pressure and heat, conditions that mirror life suffering. the coal transforms into the diamond. Okay. In this way, our suffering, when met with awareness, when met with courage and openness, reveals the radiant essence of who we truly are. Because in the end, the Buddha's teachings remind us that suffering is both a challenge, but it is also the doorway. I just can't emphasize this strongly enough because it's so critical to our path. By embracing it, we discover not only the meaning of our lives, but our infinite potential for wisdom, for compassion, and for the joy that lies within us by accepting all of life, not just the pleasant parts. So, those are some thoughts this morning about finding meaning in suffering.